Hey guys, I'm RageLeppard and welcome to a review for Trials Fusion. Now Trials has always been about taking these same tried and true physics mechanics crossed with motocross style mayhem and putting you in these situations where you got to race through a track as fast as you can to get a great medal, all without screwing up. Now Trials Evolution was the big leap in the franchise as far as I'm concerned anyway. Trials Fusion more or less refines things that are there and strangely takes some things away. The same method of still completing tracks in the fastest time possible is still there, but there's a few more features such as advanced track creation and even the FMX trick mode, which will keep you playing for a while.
Look out for abruptly ending roads.
Now the bulk of where you'll be spending your time in Trials Fusion is in its comprehensive career mode, and it's quite a lot of fun and packed with a lot of tracks and content. Most of the events begin with training modules which help you up your game and get used to the game's mechanics and the physics. Some of the training modules, like the FMX trick learning one, which is brand new to the game, is a little tricky, at least from my experience. Some of the tricks weren't registering, and even though I did complete the module, it asked me to repeat certain sequences. Despite all this, it is a lot of fun once you go through the career mode and start earning money and advance through all the events, unlocking all your medals. As you go through career mode, there's a comprehensive stat tracker and notifications for what you've unlocked and what you've earned in a really smooth interface that really does help keep things in perspective this time around. As you go through tracks and unlock more medals, you also get access to new bikes, partial upgrade parts, and rider apparel in the garage, with every event program you complete in order. What's good is that some of the track challenges require specific vehicles that you have to unlock, such as the ATV for the more dirt-oriented bike treks, or the more loosely physics-based bikes that help you get better medals and scores in the trick modes. You can still checkpoint your current run and accept a fault against your track record, or handily restart from scratch with a single button press if you're feeling confident enough to best the track for good and in one go. Sometimes this is required to be able to unlock gold medals or even platinum medals of some of the tracks, so it definitely makes a really fastidious experience. With all these higher tier medals having more difficult requirements, Trials Fusion can feel especially punishing, especially in the later events, and it can potentially become less fun, but it's never boring. Rather than be satisfied with a one-and-done approach for all its tracks, developer RedLynx has included 3 in-game challenges for each track. What's great is that only some of these can be accessed when you unlock new bikes, making it more compelling to go through the career mode and complete everything. Some of these in-game challenge objectives can range from doing basic flips to travelling through secret zones, and some of which are so obvious that I actually missed them. As with previous Trials games, there is a leaderboard so you can compare all your stats, your medals, and your race times with all your friends, and it helps keep things nicely competitive and fun. Now, one of the things that is brand new to Trials Fusion is an experience earning mode where you basically collect XP like you do in every other normal game, except rather than making you feel like you're progressing towards something, it's more or less for street cred. Aside from unlocking a few things in your garage like for your rider or for upgrades for bikes or for certain parts, there really isn't that much to it, which is kind of a bummer. The futuristic take on the franchise doesn't really add much in terms of creating a different feel, but it awards the game a larger scope insofar as its tracks are concerned this time around, and they look completely awesome on the new hardware. The mix of traditional outdoor vistas that were premiered in Trials Evolution are still here, but they possess enough of a decent identity that even though the visual leap isn't necessarily enormous, the tracks are still fun. Skill tracks and FMX trick challenge tracks are what's new this time around, and that's where Fusion sets itself a firm place in the franchise. The FMX mode now allows you to use the right analog stick to perform aerial stunts with your rider, and you're in for some serious motocross style bravado antics. Mastering them takes time, and it helps that there's plenty of air during most tracks that you'll get plenty of practice to learn them. Now, as I mentioned before, fastidiousness really is the right way to approach the Trials levels, because if you're a perfectionist, this game does one or two great things for your personality. It trains you out of being one because it's so frustrating, and it trains you into becoming one because you want to be so meticulous with making sure that you pass every track with the highest score and medal. However, the tricky stumbling blocks in this set of maps feel much more apparent than they did in the past, and it's something that feels designed to accommodate new mechanics, but at least they can get away with not feeling too cheap when you take into account the challenging nature of the series. Now, outside the bulk of the career mode, there's a few extra modes, the most prominent one of course being Track Central, which provides a hub to access a world full of tracks created by other gamers, and also a bunch of Uplay picks to help you find what the publishers at least think are the hot tracks that are going to be worth spending your time racking up credits on. Some of these creations that people have made are seriously awesome, and the ability to rate their creations is not only a valuable form of feedback to them, but also a really effective way for you to weed out what's good and what's bad and worth spending your time on. Outside of racing people's created tracks, you can also create your own with the Create facility. As with past games, it's quite time consuming, and the only way to really get a full insight is by checking out online tutorials that aren't immediately accessible in-game. It's an odd choice considering it's touted as being like a major strand of Trials Fusion's DNA, and the fact that it's not entirely comprehensive right off the bat will scare people off who don't want to invest a huge chunk of time in it. But hey, that's game design for you. One of the things that does bug me about Trials Fusion's multiplayer is that it's locked only to local play. There's no online like there was with Trials Evolution, which is a bit of a bummer. I mean, why introduce it into one particular part of the game and then when you move on to what is supposed to be the next gen step, why remove it completely? I guess it's there to focus on Track Central and really building up this sense of community with all these great tracks, but it just feels like a little bit of a cop-out. Yeah, that whinge-fest aside, there is the ability to race ghosts of friends from your PlayStation or Xbox friend lists, and it provides a healthy dose of competition to rack up high scores on the leaderboards. And what's funny is that the competitiveness takes an entirely new personal level when you race your own ghosts and try to beat your own previous bests. Now with all that on the table, Fusion is kind of strange that it feels like it does take a certain step back in terms of really being the big leap that Evolution was. It's locked only to local multiplayer, there's not as much customization this time around with all your vehicles, but there is a ton of content that's still in there. You got Track Central, you got the FMX Trick Mode, you even have all these skill tracks, and you can just rate and just keep playing an endless selection of tracks that people will no doubt keep creating. It just plays things a little safe, which considering it's on next gen is a little bit of a bummer considering how much power these consoles have, but if anything, treat it as a test for what future Trials games will come. Regardless, if you're a fan of the Trials series, you're going to pick this up anyway, it's especially cheap. I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10, I thought it was a really fun game, a lot to do, a lot of excitement, very flashy, but just not enough to really feel like it's a big leap forward for the franchise that Evolution, which is on the 360, was. Kinda odd. Anyway guys, I'm RageLeppard, thanks for watching this review, I'll catch you soon.